So it's been a while since I've done one of these, so I figured I would do an update. I just stopped at the mall here, Treasure Coast Mall, to get my eyeglasses adjusted. One of the joys of being half blind. So I actually had a viewer message me on Facebook about the maintenance repair program at Knight Transportation, so I thought I'd expound on that a little bit. Hey, a big old lizard. It's a decent program. They charge you 7 cents a mile if your truck has between 500,000 and 600,000 miles. Or, sorry, like 400 and 500,000, then 8 cents a mile, 5 and 6. 9 cents a mile, 6 and 7. And what they do, there's my bike, I lost it. And what they do is they cover 80% of any major repairs, and they do some repairs 100%. And it works out. You also get oil changes included, and I do probably about 4 oil changes a year, which works out to roughly $1,500 of that money. So, you know, all in all, I end up spending about $5,000 a year for this maintenance repair program. And it's worth it in some respects.
You should reach your destination by 1:13 p.m.
The only problem is the night shops are horrifically slow. So it's kind of a trade-off. But to give you an example, my truck's in the shop right now. I was having an issue with my alternator. It was pushing low voltage. I was up north. I noticed my mirror heaters weren't working, which was the main issue I was bringing it in for. Because when you're up north and driving in the snow and ice and everything, you need your mirror heaters. They're kind of important. And without them, my mirrors were icing up. And that's bad juju, because then you can't see. So that's why I started heading home, because I was going to put it in the shop for that anyway. But on the way home, I noticed that my headlights were getting dimmer. And that's not good. So I started paying attention to my voltage. Now, because I drive a Volvo, my voltage gauge is hidden behind menus on the little digital screen. When I first started checking it, I was pushing about 13.8 volts. I was up in Pennsylvania. By the time I got down to Florida, I was only pushing about 13.2 volts. You should be pushing right around 14. Hopefully over 14. Come on, you got right away, dipshit. So you should be pushing right around 14, 14.2, 14.3, somewhere around there is ideal. That's not what I was pushing. I was doing 13.2. So I got to the terminal on Saturday, and they told me that they'd be able to get it in on Saturday and start looking at it. Well, they weren't. I guess on Saturdays... Oh, look, a Barnes & Noble. I forgot that was there. I thought those went extinct. Anyhow, on Saturdays, they only do services like oil changes, and tires, stuff like that. They don't have a technician on. So, they said on Saturday, they said they'd get it in on Monday. Look on it. On Monday, I got a call saying they wouldn't be able to get it in the shop until Wednesday, which sucks, because I can't really afford the downtime. Now, The mirrors, I'm going to have to pay for out of pocket. That's not covered under the MRP. But the alternator is. So if I were to take it to, say, a Cummins shop or a Volvo shop to get the alternator done, I'd be looking at least $3,000 in repairs. Because I have the MRP program, I'm going to be looking at less than $1,000 for the alternator, which is pretty good. And they may even cover it outright, I'm not sure. So, it's a trade-off. The downtime sucks, but the downtime's really only going to cost me maybe $2,000. So it evens out. And I get to go home and spend time with my old lady. And where the MRP program really comes into its own is when you factor in if I blow my engine or my camshaft goes or my turbo goes, and I'm looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 repair, they pay 80% of that. So it's like paying for insurance. That's the way you kind of got to look at it. Which is what I'm trying to do. Okay, good. That is the road I want. I'm taking a different route than what my GPS wants me to take because it's the scenic route. So, like I said, it's a trade-off. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. If you have a lot of money on hand, it works out. Other than that, I've been doing actually okay overall. I did really good in December. I was taking home, between $1,200 and $1,500 a week after expenses. One week I actually made $2,200, which is pretty good. That's a pretty solid week. It's not great, but then again, fuel prices have been higher lately. When I was up in PA, it was like $3.60, $3.70 a gallon, which is a lot. A full tank of fuel was costing me pretty much $600. That's a pretty substantial sum of money. I'm hoping, rates go up to cover that, or the fuel surcharge goes up, because, at those prices, it's hurting. And, kind of got to increase revenues to cover the increased expenditure in fuel. Overall, I've been pretty happy with the truck. It's definitely cramped. I wish I had more living space in it, but overall, it's not too bad. I totally regret giving up my old Volvo before I got the yellow Kenworth. Getting that truck was probably the worst decision I ever made. That Volvo, if I hadn't turned it in and gotten the Kenworth, would have been paid off next month. Yeah, I'm a bad man. Volvo would have been paid off next month, which would have been excellent, you know. Then I'd really be bringing in the big bucks. But, like, you know, it's one of those hindsight's 2020 things. I would have still been stuck at Swift, but honestly, I was doing better at Swift than I ever did at Mercer. I mean, the potential was there at Mercer, but the reality wasn't. Would I recommend the Knight Transportation leasing program to other people? Yeah, I mean, it depends on your situation, honestly. And this really depends on anything, you know. If you have a family that depends on your money being consistent week in and week out and always at least getting some paycheck, I don't recommend it. If you're single or your significant other has their own source of income, then I'd say go for it. If you and your significant other are teaming, definitely go for it. Out of all of the lease programs I've looked at, so far theirs is the best. And there's multiple reasons for that. One, my truck payment is $375 a week. My fixed expenditures, as in what I get charged every week I operate the truck, is $527 a week. Okay? The variable is fuel and the MRP cost, because that's based off of how much I actually run. Now, to put that in perspective, at Swift Transportation, it was like $980 minimum. Okay? Every week. Now, at Knight, in 2.5 years, or 2 years, nice. In 2.5 years, I have to pay $8,000, which is my residual payment or balloon payment, and they hand me the title to the truck. If I don't have that $8,000, they will then finance the remainder. And it'll be pretty much like they'll continue my truck payment for until it's paid off, and then they'll hand me the title. So at that point, the truck is mine, free and clear, to do with as I please. If I want to park it for a year, I can. It's my truck. I don't have to stay at night. I'm not tied to them. I can get my own authority, you know, whatever, which is the goal. That's the dream. At Swift, their leases are 3 years or 4 years. At the end of the 3-year lease, you owe them like $70,000 to $80,000, and then you get the title to the truck. And in order for them to finance it, you have to put up a quarter, which, you know, 25% of $70,000 is a good sum of money. That's like 20 grand, roughly. And not a lot of people can do that, especially with what you make as a lease operator at Knight or at Swift, unless you're teaming. And at the end of a 4-year lease, it's still like 60 grand. It's not a insignificant sum of money. Also, Swift doesn't have anything like the MRP program. Out of there, you're paying shop rates, and you're paying for all your own B services and everything else. And if they have to finance it, that's another, they do another 4-year loan, even if you pay the 20% or 25%, it's still another 4-year loan. Which means by the time you pay off that truck, it's going to have 1 million miles on it and be 8 years old, you know, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I looked into Primes, and their loan is very similar to Swift's. It's more expensive, but I don't think they have as large of a balloon payment at the end. But, all the people I've known who've driven for Swift and done their lease operator program, only about 3 of them have wound up with their truck. That was a beautiful car. There's our nuclear power plant. Right over there. So it's a trade-off. If you have money to put down, from what I understand, Landstar has a pretty good lease deal with Lone Mountain. And with Lone Mountain, you're not stuck at Landstar. I mean, because that's the big gimme with the Knight Transportation lease program and the Swift lease program and Prime and Schneider and all of them, is you are tied to that carrier. You can't go somewhere else. You can't book outside freight. You have to haul their freight. You're stuck with them until the lease is up, and if you get fired or you have to quit or whatever, they get to keep the truck, even if you've paid off 90% of that truck. In fact, there was a Swift owner up recently who had to go off because she hurt her shoulder on the job. And even though she was making her truck payment every week, they still repossessed her truck because they ended up terminating her contract because she hadn't hauled freight in X number of weeks or whatever. So that's the down part of that. Now with the Lone Mountain loans, you're not tied to a carrier. The other thing with the Knight loan is you can't hire a driver to drive the truck that's being leased. You have to drive it. Now you can hire someone to team with you, but you got to be the operator of that truck, or the primary operator. So that's another drawback. But if you can live with those caveats, it's a good program. I recommend it. The money's all right. I've really only had 2 weeks where I didn't make any money, and that's even with me going home for 3 or 4 days at a time and being in the shop and whatnot. I've always at least made some money. Whereas at Swift, there were plenty of weeks where I made negative money. So overall, I would definitely recommend it. By the way, this is Indian River Drive, or US 1. There's another view of the nuclear power plant. It's a very beautiful road back here. And I'm a typical Floridian, so, in that respect. Yeah, I'm totally going 25 miles an hour. But yeah. So, on an odd chance you do decide to sign up at Knight, feel free to, tell Haley I sent you. Put me down for that referral bonus. Some extra money is always nice. That's a big buzzard. But like I said, think long and hard before you make the jump. Also, I recommend not getting a brand new shiny truck, because those are more expensive. The truck I got with the payment I got is one of the 2013, 2012 trucks. I'd had 460,000 miles on it. I got it with the Cummins because I didn't want to be tied to a dealership. Because I learned that with the Kenworth, that if you have to go to a dealership to get your truck fixed, they always mark it up far too much. to make it worthwhile. You know, a repair that on a Cummins would have cost $400 on a dealership motor could cost, $1,200. So you're paying for that dealership, because you got to pay their overhead costs. Whereas with something like a Cummins, you can go to any mom and pop shop. They're able to work on them. So that's my recommendation there. But anyhow, I think I've rambled on quite a bit about that. So that's where we'll go ahead and end this one for now. So until next time, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, and drive safe, y'all.